The day went off without a hitch. There were
the door handle.
I mean, there were no problems with the event itself.
Yeah.
There was like the weather held and was great.
Yeah, it was a weird thing because I think we had
good pizza.
Yeah, you had really good pizza.
In the Midwest, you know the best is there waiting, so come and join the conversation. I still approved, fan and artist and creator too. This is how the challengers do. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. What? Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
W. Dal Bush.
Dal Bush.
Del Bush.
Dal.
Del.
W. Dal Bush.
At the point we were recording last week, we
recorded last week?
Yeah, we definitely did. I have notes.
Read me some of the notes.
Bad customer service, back issues, FCBD setup, Crooked Dog, patrons,
that feels like
C2E2 panel.
It could have been any week. I mean, I'll take your word for it. It's fine.
It was called Intellectually? With a question mark.
Okay.
So at the point we recorded last week, I think that Sidekicks had been reassembled into the Free Comic Book Day setup, and the shelves were built, and everything that we talked about, the back issues being super in demand because we moved the carts in front of them.
Yeah.
And I don't think I rang up a single back issue this week now that they're free where people can get to them.
I've rung up a couple,
Okay.
but like maybe literally a couple.
So we were almost ready for Free Comic Book Day. We still needed to put the books on the shelves. And
Really? See, I think by that point you were done because like
no,
didn't we record like Friday night?
did we record Friday night?
I thought we did because we wouldn't have recorded like I think we were because
Why? What was Thursday?
we just didn't record. I don't know.
Okay.
But like because you were hot for the recording because you were
Now, look, I know it's only audio.
uh-huh.
Pretty hot all the time.
You were setting up in Sidekicks and then like you were complaining because you had to keep stopping to do Friday
great.
stuff.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thanks for once remembering something on the podcast.
It's all come back to me now. Yes, you jogged my
Appreciate
memory.
that. So we were ready to go for Free Comic Book Day.
Right.
But here's the thing. When I left Friday night, when I locked the door, turned off the alarm, turned off the lights, set up the alarm, but specifically, when I locked the door from the outside, as we always do,
Right.
we had a door handle.
Kind of door handle for the outside for people to pull the door open from the outside.
And what we have is a 2-bolt 90-degree turn commercial door handle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the inside, there's a push bar.
Like a horizontal bar.
There's a through bolt that goes through the door, and the top part of the exterior handle,
the vertical handle,
gets screwed into it. You have to physically rotate it like it's a propeller, tightening it up, and then put a bolt through the bottom to hold that in. And then the piece that comes through the horizontal push bar has a small Allen wrench based locking nut that holds it on the handle part, and then the back end of that screws into the back side of the door frame. These are held on with long metal bolts.
Yeah, because if you've ever used an industrial door at like a store or something, like it's used constantly. It's constantly opening and closing. So you have to make sure that when you're pushing out or pulling a door open, that it can withstand the constant pushing and pulling of a door mechanism.
In the past, I have had call to alter some of the door handle setups at Challengers. For one, I wanted to remove the exterior handles of the doors we don't use to stop people from just walking by and pulling on them.
Yeah, we have 4 entrances technically from the exterior of the building, 3 for Challengers, 1 for Sidekicks, but we would prefer people to only use one entrance, which is counting from north to south, the second one from the top.
The other 2 in Challengers are completely blocked on the inside.
Right. They over time they've gotten more blocked.
Yeah.
That's changed from when we started. But yeah, one of the annoyances the first few years was people not knowing which door was the one to come in, so they would just look for a handle and start pulling on it, and so you'd hear this boom, boom, boom from like deeper in the store.
Because there's a little bit of give to the
oh,
doors.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're locked, but like.
And then over
they're
time,
not
as people got used to what door it
soldered
was, people just walk by and pull on handles anyway. Like, not trying to get in. People that aren't coming to your store.
Yeah, teenagers mostly.
It's-
Teenage boys who
uh,
can't stop making dumb noises.
But it's still an annoyance.
Yep.
So I removed the middle door handle. Can't remove the end door handle. I can't get it apart. And I removed the inner door handle, the middle door handle, but it was already broken, and there's a bolt. There's half a bolt that got snapped off inside of that handle that I cannot remove.
Mm-hmm.
So that handle, which we kept as a backup, is basically worthless.
Mm-hmm.
And I've changed the door closer over the years for the main door.
Mm-hmm.
Bought a new one of those. Now, anytime something goes wrong with a door, you have to order parts, because you can't just go to the door store and buy new parts.
Yeah.
You can't go to the door aisle in Home Depot, of which there is one, and buy commercial handles that fit. And let's face it, as you might expect, there are dozens, maybe hundreds of different sizes.
Mm-hmm.
It matters on the width of your door, the distance between the bolts, the thickness of the handle itself, and other factors.
Right.
So you can't just go buy one, Like, most doorknobs are basically the same setup,
Mm-hmm.
with some exceptions. But you can go to the door aisle at Home Depot,
Right.
or other hardware stores are available.
Mm-hmm.
Not Gilman's Ace though, because they closed.
Menards.
And I would have used Gilman's Ace this week for sure. So you have to order a handle. And why are we talking about a handle now?
Because what we found out Saturday morning when we got to the store and were ready to open for Free Comic Book Day is that somebody had torn off our door handle.
Completely torn off the exterior handle.
There was half a screw that was still sticking out of one of the holes from where it had been screwed into a door handle that had been removed.
They tore off the handle and I guess kept it,
I guess.
because it wasn't anywhere to be found.
Yeah, we looked around and didn't see it.
And I got to tell you, as someone who's worked on those door handles, I don't know that I could tear a door handle off.
Yeah, it's unclear, A, why they did it, and B, how they did it.
Right?
It's mystifying. It was also incredibly aggravating because, again, when we found this out, it was maybe 10 minutes before we were going to open for Free Comic Book Day. So this was not a situation that was going to resolve itself right then and there. Luckily, it was a nice enough day that we could just have the front door open, but one of the quirks of Free Comic Book Day is we don't like having the front door open because people think that's where you go in to get your free comics, when it's not. You go in through Sidekicks, which is one door further north. That's the one we keep open because that's the one we want people coming in.
Yep.
But we needed to have the door open because otherwise literally nobody could get in from the outside. And some people do need to get into the Challengers entrance, not the Sidekicks entrance, for Free Comic Book Day. So luckily, it was nice enough to have the door open. Same thing for Sunday, same thing for Monday. But yeah, it was very surprising that somebody tore our door handle off.
Several of our colleagues said, "Oh, that's a good idea to take the handle off so people aren't pulling on the wrong door to get in."
Nope.
We're like, no, we didn't do that.
No, that was vandalism that was done to us.
Someone else did that. Someone tore the door handle off.
Tore
And
off.
as of this recording, it is not fixed.
Yeah, thank you, Amazon.
Because we have to order parts.
Uh-huh.
And it took me forever.
We don't just have to order them. We have to order them, and Amazon has to actually deliver them to us. 2 steps.
Yeah,
which is a process.
Before you get on us for using Amazon, if I could have found a different source that wouldn't have taken a month, I would have done so.
Yeah, and again, this is not a go to the door store thing. Like, you need a part, and we need it very fast. Because again, we didn't have a door handle for several days.
But one of the most difficult parts is the through bolt, which is, I described earlier. There are dozens of sizes for those. And I'm not even convinced the one that I ordered is exactly right, because it has a number of factors that it need to fit. But I didn't know what it was called. I don't know what, there's another construction problem I'm working on for my home. And I understand what the pieces are and how they fit together. I don't know what they're called. So it makes looking them up on any type of manufacturer website incredibly difficult.
True.
What do you call the thin metal curvy bits that hold an initial slat of a aluminum rolling shutter to a motorized crossbar?
I would type exactly that sentence into the Google search bar and see what comes up.
I'm sure that would...
What is the point of all this AI that all these companies are investing in if not to figure that out for me?
Some websites I go to, the search bar, when you click the search bar, first it comes up with a little AI circle saying, this is powered by AI. I'm like, can I type in there, or is you going to, like, what are you going to give me?
Yeah, I don't want to have to tell a story to this stupid thing.
I want to wait until it goes back to a little magnifying glass. So, also, from the other door handle instances we've had in the past, I keep all the pieces. None of the pieces are intact. They're all like half broken, half sheared, half...
But at least it gives you a jumping off point. Of
right.
like...
So I could carry them, like the broken pieces, with me to the hardware store to be like, I need something like this. And George and I spent some time at a Free Comic Day lull trying to swap out the Sidekicks door handle for the front handle of Challengers to make life a lot easier.
Sure.
There's one bolt we cannot get off of the Sidekicks door handle, so that handle is never coming off.
It sucks.
So we got everything else off. That one piece. It's like, and it's just like the harder we work on it, the more it strips the bolt.
Sure.
And also some of the newer tools, because new tools are not meant to last like that.
No.
But yeah, even using power tools and elbow grease sometimes isn't enough.
Right.
But we would need like a
industrial
mechanic air driver to maybe get this off.
Yeah.
Like what they use on tires, the but with a Phillips head.
Sure.
Not a socket.
Oh.
So on Monday, when I was in tearing down Free Comic Book Day, and why it was Monday I'll tell you in a moment, or eventually, not like a second or anything, I had a thought on a temporary handle that we could rig up for the week, because keeping the door propped open isn't necessarily the best solution if there's inclement weather.
Sure, and as it turned out, like later in the week, it did start to rain. Like Tuesday, it was rainy, and Thursday it was rainy.
Yeah. So I had an idea in my head of what I needed, but nothing is ever that easy, because I'm not going to the store to buy a specific thing. I'm going to buy pieces to rig something up.
Yep.
So I took a broken bolt with me, and I knew the internal door measurement, and what I wanted to find was basically what I had in my head was a cabinet knob, like in a kitchen cabinet.
Sure. Just
something that's a little pull.
Little door handle for a cabinet.
Yeah. And I found better than that. I found was it a T-pull? So you could actually like put fingers around either side of the middle. It's like a letter T coming out horizontally, not vertically like a T normally is. But they're made for cabinets, and they only come with screws that are like 3/4 of an inch long.
Because it's just going to go in something that is like 1/4 of an inch thick.
And our door is 2 1/4 inches.
Yeah.
So I figured out, based off of the package that I had in my hand, that I needed a number 6 screw, but I needed it to be 2 1/2 inches. Well, they don't sell 2 1/2 inches. They sell 2 inches or 3 inches. So I bought the handle, a little pouch with 2 number 6 3-inch screws, and a really big washer with a small hole in the middle. It was 13 cents.
Oh, okay.
And at checkout, I bought a package of Twizzlers. So the entire purchase was $10.95 to rig up that handle. But I knew that it was going to be too big. But I'm like, I have an entire, the thing we keep our pins in to sell the buttons at the front counter.
Okay.
You know, the little hardware drawers.
Yes.
I mean, literally, I bought it from a hardware store and painted it red, and we keep buttons in it. But I have one of those in the back filled with actual hardware. Nuts, bolts, screws, nails.
Sure.
All sorts of stuff. I'm like, I got enough bolts to fill up the length of the screw. Because the other option is cutting it. And I can't find my saws. I needed a saw this week. And I remember having this happen before. I'm like, I've got a regular jagged tooth wood saw, and I've got a hacksaw. And I can't find either of them.
Weird.
And I remember not being able to find them a while ago. Then eventually finding them, saying, "Oh, this is where they are." Now I don't know where that is. Still don't know where the saws are. So there's no option to cut a screw. So it turns out that not only did I have more than enough nuts to go on the end of it, they were the right size to screw on.
Perfect.
To make it a little bit sturdier. So it sticks out a little further than I would want it to. Like the screw doesn't go, the bolt doesn't go all the way up to the end of the handle. That's why there's the spacers on it. But it works fine.
Yeah.
It's not super visible.
Which is a problem.
People do miss it. And you had an instance where somebody thought like the door was just unavailable to open.
Yeah, like they could not discern that what was sticking out of the door was a thing to open the door. They're looking for a gigantic metal handle.
Sure.
Not a little
as they're
peephole.
used to. Yeah.
So they basically were like walking the length of the building looking for how to get in, and I had to open the door and go, no, it's back this way.
And I got to tell you how weird the door looks to me with no crossbar on the inside.
Yeah.
Just a whole sheet of glass.
Yeah, people just kind of push on the edge, which is fine.
Yeah.
Just do that.
Yeah. One of the things I was looking forward to do when I was doing the big swap out for from Sidekicks was getting that push bar, because the push bar we use at the main entrance had, from other break-ins, gotten marred up from like broken glass or whatever metal tools they use to smash through the front door.
Right.
So we now have a giant foam covering on that door handle so no one cuts themselves.
Right.
Because there's jagged parts on it.
Yeah.
And I used to like try to tape it, or Sam had knitted a cover for it, but it slid around too much.
Yeah.
But I found a good size foam pipe insulation to use that we cover and tape to keep white. But I was looking forward to like, oh, we'll have a normal bar again. No, we won't.
Nope.
However, provided everything goes right, which A, I'm going to do this, and B, it won't. Normally I have to slit the insulation to be able to fit it around the door handle and then tape it all back together. Well, since it's already off the door, and I do have one more replacement ready,
you can just slide
I can just slide it on, and then trim it where it needs to be trimmed, so it's perfect size.
Yeah, there you go.
And then part of me is like, well, then I don't need to tape it, but we'll see how long it lasts.
Right. You may want to tape it after all.
Yeah, but then it get beat up, then I can tape it.
Sure.
But this will be because they come in a 4-pack,
Okay.
so this will be the last one of the.
Got it.
But those handles have lasted pretty well, I think.
It's true.
For as inexpensive as they are, as a little bonus to make a little cushion for people to open the door. So that was how the Free Comic Book Day started. But we also found out at the same time, earlier, maybe the same time, because we don't know what time this happened.
Right.
Stop Along, which is kind of just around the corner from us over on Milwaukee, somebody tried to break through their front door in the morning as well.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And huge thanks to Josh Emmons for stopping at Stop Along
thanks, Josh.
for pizza for Free Comic Book Day. And I had what is now my new favorite pizza. It's called All the Right Moves.
Ooh.
It is a pepperoni pizza from Stop Along, but they use a hot honey on the bottom of the crust.
Ooh.
And they use a spicy sauce.
Did you go through it, or do you have some left still?
Oh, it's all gone.
Okay.
Oh no, it's long gone down.
Because I mean, I haven't had a good Stop Along pizza in a little while. I didn't really get much of the ones that Josh Emmons brought because everybody else ate it.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
So that could be a thing that's back on the menu for certain days of the week.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's called All the Right Moves, and it is delicious. But when you put the piece of pizza in your mouth, the bottom of your tongue the top of your tongue hits the bottom of the crust, and it gets that immediate sweet heat from the hot honey.
Nice.
It's so good.
Sounds really good.
Oh my God, it was life changing.
Making me hungry.
And I'm very, very thankful to Josh Emmons for that.
Yeah.
It was a thing I never would have gotten ever,
No.
because I would just get a pepperoni pizza.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, you don't go to the Stop Along often enough to try out different things.
Sure.
Like, if you were still local to from where you lived, you would probably, maybe you would have been like, what else do they got on the menu?
I mean,
You
we
do that
definitely
sometimes.
hit Stop Along a lot when I was gluten-free,
Yeah,
because they have a great gluten-free pizza.
true.
But just to talk about how there's a bunch of savages in this town. On, was it Tuesday morning?
Monday morning.
No, I was there Monday.
Yeah, you're right.
Tuesday.
It was Tuesday morning because it was raining out. Yeah.
Tuesday morning.
5 a.m. Tuesday morning.
Some buddies, several people,
I'd
2
assume.
cars worth, drove a car straight into Smoke and Snack directly across the street from us to steal their ATM. They used one car to smash in the window and then, tie up.
Drive into the premises.
Yeah.
Taking out, 2 of their 3 windows and, I think their door, maybe? I mean, the door,
The door was
fine,
okay. It was definitely
but,
the front windows.
I got to work at, a little after 10, and I couldn't tell what happened at first. It looked like their ceiling had caved in because there was a whole bunch of, masonry and insulation and stuff. And I'm like, what is this? What happened? Because, usually when you break into a business, like we've been broken into before, you smash in the front door, you go and you grab stuff, you leave. This looked like it had almost, caught on fire or something. I could not figure out what was going on. And there's residences above it. There's 2 levels of residences. And I'm like, they look fine, so I don't know what's going on. And then you had sent me the link explaining what had happened. And it's
Gina found that link.
It's oh, I figured you're on Block Club pretty often as well. I'm like, sooner or later, Patrick's going to be on Block Club, and someone's going to be like, here's what happened to Smoke and Snack.
After Gina didn't send me a link. She texted, because I sent her the picture right away. And she sent me back just a quick headline, not just a quick write-up of what it was that she typed out. So I went looking for it, and it took me 2 hours to find anything about it.
But yeah, it's they were boarded up by, I think by Wednesday. Maybe it was the end of the day Tuesday. Yeah, it was the end of the day Tuesday because Wednesday they were installing a lot of the new glass and stuff.
Now
and fixing some of, because not only did a car was driven into it, so not only were the windows taken out, but the metal braces between the window panes was completely taken out. So they had to, a lot of Tuesday was essentially trying to level everything back out so that they could install a wall again because everything was slightly dented.
Yeah, normally I'd be worried about that being a support wall because it's the front wall of the building, but I don't know that section is. Our front wall is only a support wall.
I don't think
in between the glass.
I don't think they're load-bearing windows now.
Yeah, but I mean, my point is the gaps in our front windows where it's all masonry is support.
Sure. So
if someone drives into that, everybody upstairs is totally boned.
Probably a problem for a while.
Now they're not a dispensary.
No.
They sell candy and chips and CBD oils and plenty of incense.
Yeah, vapes.
And cigars and stuff.
Yep. But yeah,
so I wouldn't expect that they have a ton of cash in an ATM like you would expect maybe for a dispensary, especially if it's only a cash business.
For sure.
And I used to be in charge of an ATM or 2 where I used to work, and I can tell you that it only ever had $200 to $300 in cash in it at one time. But I assume that theirs is different. But the amount of damage that those thieves caused to those hoodlums, those hooligans, caused to a business for a couple $100. Not only that, but they stole the entire ATM from what I heard. And those aren't cheap. I'm sure they were renting it.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that's somebody else's responsibility for that. I mean, I don't know as a business if you are responsible for safeguarding it or if it's just this thing got stolen.
We never considered having an ATM in Challengers, but it's also in our lease that we can't have one because the original owner of the building wanted to mount one on the outside of the building somewhere.
Sure.
And now ultimately there's an entire store that has ATMs at the end of our strip. No one's there's 3 ATMs there. No one's ever driven into that place to try to steal those.
Well, I assume those are significantly harder to get than a freestanding ATM.
Yeah,
that is probably not bolted down or installed into a wall.
And this isn't a sneaker store.
Yeah.
This is and they have pull down shutters at night, right?
Yeah. Didn't make a difference. They just drove right through them. Which, I mean, that's the thing. Those metal shutters.
They're not meant to stop a motor vehicle.
They're just meant to stop you from getting to the window. That's it.
Yeah.
As a person, they're not that thick. So if you drove a car into it, you're going to go through.
And this is a new business. They've only been open for 2 months maybe?
If that. Not very long, man.
Man, that is horrifying.
That is
one of the things we're never worried about. I'm always peripherally worried about somebody losing control of their car if it's a slick surface, it's a torrential downpour if they're drunk.
Yeah, we're not that far off of Western Avenue. Like
And
the sidewalk
driving-
is not real deep.
But there's light posts, there's bike racks, there's trees,
Small obstacles.
there's small obstacles, small deterrents.
But I mean, we've seen plenty of footage of comic shops that just, an inattentive motorist just plowed into the wall or whatever.
So I was always like, it's never a thing I think can't happen, but I'm never worried. I would never think that anybody would drive a car into our store to steal anything, because we don't have anything worth stealing.
Yeah, thankfully is a weird way to put it, but thankfully we're not a store that does anything with like vintage books or anything, so we never have to worry about, someone coming in and taking all of our CGC books or all of our first edition Pokemon cards or whatever. Like, all we have is just regular books and comic books. Like, your ability to get anything out of those by, reselling them, you're not going to get anything. It's not worth it. Like, you'll get nothing.
But in the past, when people would break into our store in the early days before we figured out how badly the electronic locks were, they would just steal money out of the register, which we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, we specifically don't leave. We used to leave, $100 startup money, but that was before either of us worked in Bucktown and understood what was happening.
Yeah.
And then we were told very firmly by several people, both in and out of the
Law enforcement
profession, to not do that in our neighborhood. And we said, okay.
But they would always steal our computer monitor. That was what they stole every time, was a computer monitor.
They did. Which were, obviously, they were never expensive monitors.
No, they were bottom of the line.
Right.
But they cost way less than having to replace the glass door every time.
Yep. That was always the biggest flaw of any break-ins we had, was what the person got, virtually nothing. What we, having to leave home at 3 a.m. or whatever, because somebody had broke in and you have to go in and you have to be there while the police are writing a report, while you're waiting for the board-up company, while you're paying, overall like $1,000 to both board up and then put up glass. That was just like, Jesus Christ.
And then for as thorough as a board-up company is, they never get all the glass up. You have to take care of that yourself.
Yep. You're there waiting hours, and it's 5 a.m, so it's like, all right, I guess I'm vacuuming this up now.
The last time it happened was the day I was going to San Diego for Comic-Con.
Oh, yeah.
I had to I wasn't leaving like that morning, but I was leaving that afternoon. But I still had to get up extra early, go to the store, wait all day for that stuff to be taken care of, then go home and pack, and then go to the airport.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is that's just a couple of weird vandal stories from our neighborhood.
Vandals and savages.
Now let's talk about, are you ready for this? Free Comic Book Day.
Let's do it. Free Comic Book Day, everybody.
How did it go? Everybody had a good time.
Yes. So this is the thing I've mentioned before, is that I don't mind being brutally honest about our business on the podcast. I think it's what people listen to it for, if they listen to it at all. And I don't mind kind of getting down to brass tacks with stuff. To jump ahead a bit, we were down from last year.
Which was down from the year before.
Right. So we're on a real bad trend line as far as like the turnout and the average spend. This year, it was more the average spend was down than the number of buyers. We did less hours, I think, than we did last year.
No, we did the same hours last year.
I really feel like this was the first time we did 11 to 5.
Nope. Because a couple years ago, we did extended hours. And after that, you're like, this isn't worth it. Everyone's out of here. Like, no one comes in after 5. We're just going to close at 5. So last year was the first year we went back to normal hours.
Okay. Well, basically the same amount of people showed up, but they all spent less. So I don't mind saying that on a podcast. It's just us talking. People who listen to that are kind of opting in on it. I don't ever like talking about that at the store. So everybody who asked me at the store, and so many people said, how was Free Comic Book Day? Would always get the same, I think people had a good time. Because I don't want to say, it was shit.
Yeah, brass tacks, this is our lowest dollar amount in like a decade.
Yeah.
Well before pandemic numbers.
Yeah.
But
pre-pandemic, when Free Comic Book Day had to change its structure for several years because of a global pandemic, every year is better than the year before it. like we were getting to the point where like every year for a few years, Free Comic Book Day was our new best sales day of the year.
Our top 3 best sales days at Challengers in the history of Challengers. Number 1, Free Comic Book Day of whatever year. I want to say 2019.
Probably.
Number 2, Free Comic Book Day 2018.
Uh-huh.
Number 3, Rick and Morty Day.
Yeah. So again,
Rick and Morty Day was huge,
Yeah.
and I thought we'd never top it, and then we topped it twice.
Yeah, in subsequent years. Yeah, and then 2020 Free Comic Book Day went on hiatus because, again, global pandemic. That was a weird year because stores had already received all the Free Comic Day comics by the time the pandemic was really setting in and lockdowns were happening across the country. So basically the decision was made of like, kind of give them out however you want. Definitely don't do a thing where people queue up and then your store is packed full of people. Like, that's not happening. You look skeptical?
Well, I don't think we'd got, I know that we'd ordered the books and they were printed, but we hadn't gotten them yet because everything shut down in March.
So, but
we wouldn't have had the stuff for May by then.
I think we did. I thought we did. Because there was months of like, they weren't shipping anything out.
Yeah.
And even when things started shipping back out again, it was like a very small amount of things. So maybe you're right.
The thing I don't remember is what year was Free Comic Book Summer? Was it 2020 or 2021?
I think it was 2020, I think, because the decision was eventually made of like, just make it the whole summer and people can come get them whenever.
And then
and
2021, it wasn't in May. And I only know that because I started looking back records to see
Take a look.
Where what our sales numbers were in 2021. And first week of May in 2021 was a standard normal week with no indication of a good sales day. So I feel like that one was like done in July.
I'm gonna take a look.
I don't even. I'm sure there's retailers listening saying, "Come on, you idiot! It was whatever this day was."
August 14th.
Okay, found that out so quick. What'd you do?
I typed in Free Comic Book Day 2021, and it took me to the freecomicbookday.com site that had the news article about the 2021 books.
2020 was Free Comic Book Summer, where it was like a whole 5 weeks worth of books.
Yeah, it was basically like when you are able to have people in your store.
It was that whole month because they were giving us some each week for that month. We hadn't gotten them yet, but they had been printed.
Maybe.
And then 2021 was in April, so those two don't count.
Yeah, and then 2022 is when we were kind of back to, it was the first Saturday in May. You know, people felt comfortable coming back out to stores. Vaccinations were prevalent. But yeah.
I can tell you that this year, 2024, was thousands of dollars lower than 2022.
Yeah. It was not good.
We had 3 less sales transactions in 2024 than we did in 2023.
Right.
But as Dowd said, the spend was down significantly.
Yeah.
And also 2023 was, at that point, our worst one in forever.
Yeah. Again, the trend line is not good for these things.
So, I'm sorry, do I keep cutting you off?
So I just wanted to get back to say that I do not like talking about these things in the store.
Yeah.
In the store, if you ask me, you're always going to get the most, like, not cheerful or bullshit or whatever, but...
Good, how are you?
Yeah, you're going to get... I'm not going to talk honest sales figures and numbers at the store. I do not like doing that. I don't want to... One, I don't think that's fun to talk about in the store personally. Like, it feels bad to have that conversation. 2, the problem with those sorts of questions, you know, how did whatever event go? How did the sale go? How did the signing go? Is like, neither answer is going to be fun to give. Like, something like, how did Free Comic Book Day go? If I say it was great, we had our best sales day ever, that feels kind of crass to tell a customer.
Yeah.
You're the person spending money. I don't want to say, oh my God, I got so much of people's money. And then if it's bad, it's like, what are we going to do with that? Like, I don't want to complain to you. That's not... Your role as a customer is for me to say sales were shit. Like, again, neither of these things is worthwhile to have a discussion about in the store. So if anybody asks me that and you got the like, I think people had a good time, that's all you're ever going to get at the store. You want a better answer or a more honest answer? That's what the podcast is for.
And in all openness and honesty, the day went off without a hitch.
Well, the door handle.
I mean, there were no problems with the event itself.
Yeah.
There was like the weather held and was great.
Yeah, it was a weird thing because I think we had
good pizza.
Yeah, you had really good pizza. What occurred to both of us later is that what we thought was a positive well-oiled machine. We know exactly what we're doing. We have a rhythm for this. We know where everybody goes for staff. We know how to pace the day out. We know how to make all of this go smooth and professional. Was like, that's why people aren't showing up. Or that's why when they're showing up, they're just sliding through the process.
So Dell and I have talked about this a lot, and this is my take on why the year was what it was. And I'm going to start with saying we are not trendsetters.
No.
There's nothing we're doing that somebody hasn't done before us, hasn't done better.
Right. Or couldn't also do themselves.
Right.
There's nothing that we have that is such a unique experience to the store that literally nobody could replicate it if they wanted to.
I mean, hopefully it's our personalities and our customer service.
No, it's replicable.
So I will say that at this point in time, it feels like every store in the city does the exact same thing for Free Comic Book Day. They have local creators signing and sketching. They have cosplayers. They have the free comics, what have you, right?
A lot of them do sales.
Everyone does that kind of stuff. And we've been doing it since we opened. Our first Free Comic Book Day, we had Art and Franco.
Right.
There were people in costume, not as organized as it is now. Well, this year we had the League of Enchantment with like 6 cosplayers.
Yeah, people we've never had before for an event.
Yeah.
There were Star Wars people, there were X-Men people. It was a good crew.
But it doesn't matter to most people if it's professional cosplayers or just a homemade costume or whatever.
Yeah.
And looking at what everybody else is doing, everybody that we know that's a creator in Chicago, they were all at a store signing somewhere.
Yes.
Everybody was booked.
Yep.
Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone does the same thing. And I'm not saying anybody copied us, but I'm saying we've been doing it this whole time. And look, we weren't doing this stuff at our previous place of employment.
No, I mean, Free Comic Book Day, we've both been doing it since the first Free Comic Book Day. And, the first, 5 years of it or whatever, we're very, you have free comics.
Yeah.
That's it. Maybe you do a sale. Maybe you don't. Maybe you try and do like balloons or whatever. But it was just...
we did balloons. No, that was more for cons.
There were just
we did balloons.
Free comics and more free comics every year, and it became more ingrained. But I think when we were challengers, we really tried to make it something where it was like even bigger than we had done before.
Yeah. And again, now everyone does that. So what we're doing isn't special.
No.
1. 2, I do think people go out of their way to spend money when they get to the store for Free Comic Day. Not everybody. But, a good half of the people.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing I kind of want to touch on for a second. And I don't want to make anybody feel bad who had stopped by Challengers for Free Comic Book Day and got free comics but didn't spend anything. But I will say this. As someone who's been doing this for a long time and understands the infrastructure costs, both financially and emotionally, to doing Free Comic Book Day, I would like people who go to stores for Free Comic Book Day to think about buying something at the stores as like tipping when you go to a restaurant. You don't have to. It's not contingent on you getting your meal, but it is kind of assumed you're going to do that because that's how the financials of the business that you're patronizing work. You not doing that is costing somebody money. I know it's maybe gauche to say, but it is the reality of the situation, and I think everyone would do better to understand that. And for people who think, well, but I shop at your store normally, so that should be covered by Free Comic Book Day, it's like saying, but I tipped at the restaurant last time. So why do I have to tip this time? And it's like, well,
that's a good point.
This is a separate meal and it has separate costs.
I do feel like a lot of the people that listen to this podcast are not those people.
No, but again,
it's still, it doesn't hurt to reiterate.
I would like to kind of create an idea in people's mind of how this works instead of just saying, please spend money at your local shop when you go to Free Comic Book Day. I'd kind of like to give them an analogy that they might be familiar with, because that's a situation we have faced a lot of times, not just for Free Comic Book Day, but also for things like signings, where we've brought in creators from out of town and people just bring their books from home. And it's like, again, in order to make this event work, where we maybe had to fly somebody out and put them up, you need to buy something. You don't even have to buy their book, but you need to buy something or we can't keep doing these things. But people, again, have this idea of, no, but I already bought the book. And it's like, yes, you bought the book to read, and now you need to buy something to provide for a signature, basically, for somebody to be here doing this for you, because that was not covered by what you paid a month or 6 months ago. But anyway. Yeah.
To get back to more of my philosophy on this.
Yes.
Now it seems that so many of the people that go to Free Comic Book Day treat it as like a scavenger hunt or a passport thing where they're going to 4 stores, 5 stores, 6 stores.
Sure.
You know, it for the first, I don't know, 10 or whatever years it was, you go to the store, you get free books.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like, oh, you can go to all these stores and get all these free books.
Right.
So even if you're spending money at the store, if you're going to 6 stores, you can't spend a ton of money at 6 stores.
Right.
And maybe you take that $50 you're going to spend, and now you're spending $10 per store.
Right. Yeah.
And that really
It's definitely possible.
It feeds into the fact that our average spend was way down.
Sure.
And
I mean, some of it, there were genuinely a lot of people who showed up that would just come to the counter and go, do you need to scan these? Show me their free books. No. Okay, bye. Like they were not getting anything.
Yeah.
So the average spend is down, but I don't know how much of that was the amount of people. I mean, obviously, like the average spend when we talk about that is like we are taking the total dollars spent by the number of people who actually rung something up. That does not include people who came and didn't buy anything at all. They're not calculated in that. We don't have
we don't have
a
somebody,
raw number of
a clicker of
attendees.
anybody coming in.
Right. So we couldn't say like, well, 250 people bought something or 250 purchases were made, but we had an attendance of 600 people, so 350 of them bought nothing.
Right.
I don't know. We probably should have kept track of that, but that's just one more thing to do.
It'd also make us more
Slower.
sad.
Well, also slower. There was one year where I was like, I want to get a count of all of the books that go out the door, because for the longest time we were just people would take stuff and they'd leave, and then we'd be like, how we know what we ran out of, but how did different books do? We decided to do like everybody needs to get rung out. Even if you're just getting free comics, I got to ring you out before you go.
Yeah. We just want to be able to track which books went.
We did that for maybe 35 minutes before the line was so long that we're like, we can't. Like anybody who's just getting free stuff, get out of line.
Get out. Just get out.
Because it was just taking forever. And this is like way before Shopify and all the other stuff that maybe would be slowing down a transaction. This is back when it was just, regular RMH, RMS point of sale, scan out the door.
Yeah.
So we don't do that. I think maybe one year it would be nice to just have a sense of like how many people showed up.
Yeah.
Like not just transactions or not just groups of people, but literally how many bodies through the door and out the door again.
And we can count how many books are left for each title, subtract.
We've done it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My speech and the way we had it was cosplayers outside dealing with the crowd, taking pictures outside. We dragged out our full-size statue guys and our turtles and
For
our
photo op.
photo ops along with the cosplayers and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
One year we tried to have our banner out there, but it was just too light and would blow away.
And I want to say right up front, weather for this was fantastic.
Yeah.
It's always the biggest concern heading into Free Comic Book Day because you cannot control the weather. We are in a retail storefront with no awning, with no
Parking
ability
lot.
to put up a tent or anything like that. So people are generally, for the first hour or so, waiting outside in the line that wraps around the building. If it's shitty weather, they're not going to wait in line. That's going to be a problem for us.
Yep.
So we always, you're staring at the forecast 10 days out to be like, is it going to be good? And you watch it shift around. I know Patrick had said, like, I think on the last episode that
It was going to rain.
it was going to rain. And I'm like, I'm looking at the forecast right now. It says that for the hours of Free Comic Book Day, we're fine. And it did. It rained later that night. It was like 7 o'clock at night
Fine.
when it downpoured. It was a deluge. But like, we closed at 5 and we were out of there by like 6. So it's like, this is great. But it was a genuinely beautiful day in Chicago. Clear skies, warm temperatures, not too warm.
But we take advantage of that. If we're handing stuff out, we have the cosplayers do that, and they're going up and down the line. This year we had the League of Enchantment people just do their own thing,
Mm-hmm.
but we had Stella and Parker handing out domino masks for kids, kid-sized domino superhero masks.
Stella was Birds of Prey Harley Quinn, and Parker was Spider-Punk. No, he was
Spider-Man in a suit.
Spider-Man in a suit. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
with a Spider-Man jacket and slacks.
Yes.
I was at the front door handing out a flyer of upcoming events.
Mm-hmm. We got a bunch of stuff coming up in May that we wanted people to know about.
Our next 5 events are all with women or women presenting creators.
Nice.
Or non-binary creators.
Sure.
So my speech to everybody was, you can take up to 5 books. Please no doubles.
Mhm.
Here's a flyer. Like, we just wanted to keep... parents, keep in mind the color coordination of the logos
Right.
based off of the age ranges, and I kept the adult stuff right where I could point to it.
Right.
So I never said 5. I'd say up to 5.
Right.
But the number one question was, how many do we get?
Yes.
Up to 5.
Yeah. When you say
But-
5, people make sure they take no less than 5. But if
And-
you say up to 5, it's like, well, you don't have to just grab stuff to grab stuff.
Gina and Lizzie were on the opposite side, counting people's books as they go through,
Mhm.
and they frequently had to say, you have way too many books.
Yep.
Or you have duplicates.
Yep.
People just don't care about the rules.
No, or they think they can get away with it.
Yeah.
They're all free, right?
Right.
Mm.
So one of the things I made a point to be vague on is if it's like a parent and a kid, I say, you can take up to 5 books.
Mhm.
I don't say per person.
Right.
I let them interpret that. If they say for each of us, yes.
Yes.
But I don't go out of my way to do that because I don't want everyone to feel like, oh, you have to take 5. Like, there were some kids being like, I got my 4. Like, no, you take 1 more. No, you don't have to.
You don't have to. 4's fine.
4 is great.
plenty.
1 is great.
If that's what
2
you're
is,
excited
2
about.
is great.
Take 4.
Yeah, but it went off with no problems. There were no incidents. Everyone seemed to have a good time.
Ice cream truck showed up.
An ice cream truck showed up, and I'm unaware of. George may have flagged it down. I'm not
Maybe. I
entirely
mean, he
sure.
was out there with the megaphone.
Yeah. So the joke of that is
they might have just seen him and been like, "Yep."
Parker brought a megaphone for his character, but never used it, and so George used it the whole day.
Uh-huh.
And people really liked George's banter. I did have to rein him in a little bit on a few things
Sure.
that we won't go into detail here.
Uh-huh.
But he enjoyed having the microphone, the megaphone, excuse me. And I love George's energy for those days, and
great.
I can tell, we're all getting older. My knees hated me at the end of that day,
Yeah.
and I knew that he was a little bit sore as well.
Sure.
But George is in his 60s, man.
Yeah.
That is he's still just my brother in my head, but he's 62 years old.
But who's counting?
And I still rely on him whenever I need help with stupid physical things.
Right.
Hey, we need to carry the safe up 10 flights of stairs. Will you help me? Sure. He's always there for it. Stuff like that. But yeah. So I think that there is not a way to necessarily, during the idea of giving out free comics, for us to get to those record days anymore because of the sheer number of other stores that everybody else goes to. That is my take on why. Because I think we went above and beyond this year. We did extra stuff this year.
We did. But so I guess my counter argument would be, I don't know that we can afford to just be like, this is the new normal without trying anything.
Oh,
I'm
I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
We're definitely, you and I have
I think
big ideas for next year.
Well, I was going to say, I think both of us independently came away from Free Comic Book Day going, that was run really well. We have to reconceive it. Like, what the reality of Free Comic Book Day is, it is evolving as an event. It is changing as far as who comes out, when they come out, why do they come out, what are they looking for, what do they expect to see, what would be appealing to them. Like, we're kind of running an event for a crowd that has drastically changed over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And we had not really realized how much that's the case until this year. Because, again, 2022 and 2023 were the first 2 years after the pandemic where Free Comic Book Day felt like it was kind of back on people's radar. And so 2022, you're like, well, we didn't do this for a couple of years, and so people are going to take a little while to get back in the rhythm. And then 2023 was like, well, it's down, but like maybe there's a thing that we just didn't know about, and this is a fluke. But like, again, you hit 2024 and it's down again, and you're like, this is a trend line. Like, this is going in a direction. You have 3 data points now that you can point to and say this is not working. So even though it's like, we felt very confident in our ability to execute that event is no longer enough for Free Comic Book Day. So it's a lot of the next 6 months basically are us collectively and independently trying to figure out what is the version of this that's going to excite people again in 2025 the way it might have in 2019.
There's a couple of things I've done at the end of last Free Comic Book Day, leading up to this one, I did it again for next year to make my life easier, setting up and tearing everything down. That now that I have done it, it's like, oh, we may not be doing it this way anymore.
Sure.
Like last Christmas, the Christmas tree for the last couple years has been in sidekicks. It used to be in the front room, but now we don't have room for that. So it's been in sidekicks where we had room, but I would always have to run an extension cord across the ducts and drop it straight down in the middle of the floor to light up the tree. So this year, or the end of last Christmas season, I'm like, I'm leaving this extension cord. It can hang down. It falls between shelves. It's virtually invisible. No one will see it. It's just going to be so much easier to set up the tree next Christmas. Then I rearranged the way Sidekicks is laid out. There's no room for a tree right now.
Oh, no.
So we have this cord that's still up there that I may have to go up and take down anyway.
We'll see.
But I mean, that's just a like, oh, let me make life easier.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not. It's not any easier. It's not going to be that way.
Yeah.
So what we did this year, because I was genuinely tired and no one likes sticking around after Free Comic Book Day is over, we've got a great crew that really knows how to tear down. But I was so disenchanted with how much stuff we did and generally tired that I said to Dal, what if we leave everything up through Sunday to let people, we'll call it Free Comic Book Sunday,
right,
and have people who didn't get a chance to come in and get whatever books are still left on the shelf.
Which, as someone who's worked the day after Free Comic Book Day for the last 16 years, there are so many people who come in Sunday who are like, I wasn't able to make it. Do you have anything left? Or, oh, we just found out about this. Do you have anything left? And it's always like, it's in the back hallway and I might be by myself. And what were you looking for? And I can dig around and see if we've got it. So this plan appealed to me because I was like, oh, that's less nonsense I'll have to deal with. I can just go check in the room over there.
Yeah. And a lot of people, from what I hear, came just for the free books, but also it was like half a normal Sunday.
Yeah. So again, we had
Business-wise,
this situation where somebody, regular customer, very kindly was like, super appreciative that we had done it. So glad wasn't able to make it on Saturday. Can't usually make it to Free Comic Book Day because it's a gigantic crowd and they just can't do that. But the Sunday after where they can just come in the afternoon and grab them without having to deal with a big crowd. So grateful for that. Thank you so much. Bought nothing. So it's like I can't do this now. Like without the extra sales of these sort of things, we have to look at them differently. We have to find some way to have them be profitable events, to have them be something that is bringing in revenue. We cannot literally just give away free comic books. That as a business model doesn't work for anybody.
And so then I came in Monday morning to tear everything down and put everything away. And got it all done in like 2.5 hours. Needed your help for putting some shelves on the top shelves.
Happy to do it.
So I didn't have to keep going up and down the ladder, which I did not want to do.
No.
The super tall ladder. Not the mega ladder, but, a very tall ladder to get up to the shelves and back. So that's why we kept books out for an extra day.
Yeah. Which, again, worth a try because people will always come in asking for that stuff. Most of them didn't buy anything extra, and we did worse than we did the previous Sunday. So it was like, not really worth doing.
Ironically, this year doing C2E2, we did normal business for the days of C2E2, which is not something that usually happens.
No, mostly because everyone's down at the convention center and aren't going out to the comic shop to get books. But it sounds like there was the weird situation where we did a strong weekend, but also the show was packed. So I don't know where everybody was and how that happened, but I'm glad everybody benefited.
It's just things you always have to worry about. Like, okay, Free Comic Book Day is going to be a solid day of business, but the days leading up to it and leading after it might not be that great. Yeah. And this week, not a huge week of releases, nor is next week.
No, I don't know how that keeps happening. I definitely feel like we're in for a really aggravating June where everything that should have been coming out in May is going to be coming out in like June and July.
And then July is going to be a lot of big releases.
God, it's so much. It's all the X-Men stuff plus Aliens versus Avengers plus everything else.
Yeah.
Luckily, we'll have the calm of Absolute Power, which, based on Free Comic Book Day, nobody cares about at all. Definitely going to impact my FOC numbers on that book.
We ordered less free comics this year than we've done in most recent years, but that's based off what we have left over.
Mhm.
And the books, and there's a lot of lower tier books we get like, under 100 copies of, so we're not counting those in our
Performance
winners or
metrics.
losers metrics. Thank you. The Marvel book we ran out of I was going to say fastest, but at all, was the Spider-Man Ultimate Universe one.
Yeah.
But we had a healthy stock of we had Blood Hunt X-Men left over.
Right.
Not a ton.
Not a lot. I mean, a handful of copies probably.
We had a lot of Absolute Power left
A
over.
whole lot of Absolute Power.
But the number one book we had left over,
The
which
total dog, the
does-
absolute failure of the year.
doesn't make any sense to us,
Nope.
is the Energon Universe
Energon
book.
Universe. We'll have that thing for years.
Like, we
oh
did
boy.
order higher on that than normal because of the success rate of Transformers and
Well,
the
and
G.I. Joe
also,
stuff.
it was the Image Free Comic Day comic for the year.
Yeah. And it's all new stories.
Yeah. And it's all good stories. Like, I mean, it's Jason Howard. It's
Literally,
Ryan Otley.
they released a pay version this week,
Uh-huh.
which people were buying
Yeah.
when we have the free one still at the shelf.
Uh-huh. Unreal.
Because we left Absolute Power and Energon Universe and the Worlds of James Tynion out on the new release wall this year.
Because we had enough left over that it was like,
Yeah.
maybe people, and I mean, I would love for people to pick up Absolute Power and try that out because that will actually turn into sales for an upcoming book.
Yeah.
So that would be great. But yeah, Absolute Power people did not seem to care about, which is yet another seemingly another weird DC event that people are just going to be completely
checked out on.
just uninterested in, just not even willing to pick it up. And it's like, this is a good creative team. I mean, not for the Free Comic Day comic. It was Mark Waid and Mikkel Janin, and I don't think they mixed together very well for that book. But the main
But
series,
separately, I like them both a lot.
yeah, the main series is Mark Waid and Dan Mora, and it's like they're great together. They're so good, and I feel like this is a good concept of like the heroes lose their powers and they have to find some way to defeat the villain. Like, this sounds good, but it just seems like already people don't care about this, and it's like, oh god, that's real rough. Speaking of DC, not to segue or anything, but there was an announcement today about an upcoming Gotham City Sirens miniseries.
Okay. I'm unaware of this.
Covers by Terry Dodson and Rachel Dodson.
Okay.
Written by Leah Williams.
Okay.
Art by, it's like 3 different artists, one doing the first one and third one, a second team doing the second one, and a third team doing the fourth one.
Okay.
Releasing weekly for the month of August in
Oh.
place of Catwoman, Harley Quinn, and Poison Ivy. And that was the sound that came out of my mouth as I read that and went, well, great. You took me from, oh, this is going to be a miniseries that we can probably order 20 or 30 copies of, to this is a thing I'm going to order 5 copies of for the shelf for each
Yeah.
issue because you made it weekly. And that means you're making me order the entire thing before I sell issue 1. So no, I'm not doing this. And also, since it's a completely different creative team, now not only am I going to have a weekly miniseries that's going to have low interest and low rack sales,
You're not going to have the sales of those other 3
I'm not
books.
going to have Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, Catwoman for the month. Luckily, of those 3, Poison Ivy is the only one that really does well for us.
Yeah. If you had said Birds of Prey, I'd been like, what?
Yeah, that would have been a real frustration.
This may be a controversial take. I don't think that the Dodsons are a cover draw anymore. And I use draw on purpose.
Yeah, I think the covers they have are fine, but it's certainly not anything that's going to pop off the shelf. It's
They're
just-
like, for example,
decent
their
covers.
incentive covers never sell.
No.
I think they're very talented creators. I like
Yeah.
their art a lot.
yeah,
But I don't think that they generate. They're not exciting anymore.
Yeah, I don't know why this is a weekly miniseries. I don't know why it's replacing 3 other books, and I don't understand why you have to have a non-consistent art team on it for a 4-issue miniseries that you could literally release whenever. Like, just wait for the main artist to be done with it.
I also don't think John Romita Jr. should do every Amazing Spider-Man cover and every Daredevil cover.
Well, that's where you're wrong, Patrick. He's going to do them both forever.
Well, I mean,
Till the end of time.
I'm not wrong because I think he shouldn't do it.
No.
That's not wrong.
No, your personal opinion is wrong in this instance.
Oh, sorry.
Marvel has proven it.
Have they now?
They have, yeah, it's factual. Anything else you want to say about Free Comic Day this year?
No.
We always buy too many donuts. How does that happen?
Okay, that's my fault because
I feel like we
knew
bought less donuts than last year, and we still had way too many.
we didn't. We bought the same amount. In my head, I'm like, only buy a dozen this year. But then I'm like, look, we bought like
Cosplayers,
6 or 7 cosplayers,
3 artists,
3 creators. Huge thanks to Tom Kelly, Jetty Lewis, and Archangelo
Mhm.
for making everybody happy all day long.
Yeah, some really great
Um,
sketches out of those folks.
Apologies to Tom Kelly because Jetty had come in Friday when I was setting up, and I like showed her the table set up, and I'm like, "Hey, since you're here now, you want to pick your table?" So she picked the middle table.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tom came in when I was I was in sidekicks when he came in.
Uh-huh.
And he sets up on the middle table. I'm like, hey, you can't have that table.
Yeah.
And he's like, I didn't see a name on it. And yeah, he was a trooper. He happily switched.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave him more room because he got to use the top of the,
Half off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he will never let me forget that I made him move.
No, it came up again on Wednesday when he came in.
And honestly, I feel like, I brought it up because when he was buying his books, I'm like, I'm sorry.
You made a joke about
those
it.
exact copies are reserved for Jetty. You can't have those.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Jetty wouldn't have cared and taken either one, but since she had claimed her table, and I honestly thought like I should put her name on the table, but I didn't. But she took the middle one because it was the most beat up table that needed a tablecloth. She's like, oh, let's take that one because no one will want it.
Yeah.
I was giving Tom a better table.
You were. You cared.
He was honestly a little bit annoyed, but handled it like a trooper.
Uh-huh.
And I appreciate it. And she raised just about $400 for Palestinian relief funds.
Great.
Because she was donating all of her money. I think the other two people did well. I saw some sketches online.
Cool.
So thanks to them. So yeah, there we go for Free Comic Day.
Yeah.
We both do have plans for next year, and I have an idea that I haven't run by you yet.
Sure.
But one of the things I'm unsure of is if the location of the free books. Sidekicks is perfect for it.
Yes.
But is that part of the stagnation?
No, I mean, I think there's structural and logistic things that we
like
are not
cars through windows.
We are not going to change. Don't do those. Challenger's not becoming a drive-through or a drive-in.
As much as we wanted to be a drive-in years ago.
But it's more about thinking about how we sculpt an event that brings in people who maybe are skipping out or maybe not making us a priority, or kind of how to think about like who specifically is coming here and how do we best serve those various audiences, because it's not just one homogenous group of people. It's people who are looking for like essentially kind of looking at it like a convention like C2E2. People who go to a convention, even if it's 40,000 people, it's not 40,000 people all doing the same stuff. They all want different things out of that experience. And a good convention like C2E2 understands that you have to have a good panel track. You have to have a good artist alley section. You have to have comic vendors. You've got to have non-comic vendors. You've got to have stuff for cosplayers. You've got to have stuff for really young kids. You've got to have stuff for families. You've got to have stuff for singles. You've got to have all that sort of stuff. And obviously we're not going to be doing that for Challengers Free Comic Book Day. We don't have Read Exhibitions money. But it does mean kind of looking at the day and saying, okay, well, how do we turn this into something that appeals to the most amount of people without necessarily like making it less profitable for us? Hopefully more profitable for us. And that is a long process of figuring that out.
During the week, I came up with a plan for a summer event here at Challengers that will need to be initiated quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote up a list of specific questions, and I sent them all to Stella because she volunteers with open books and she reads to kids.
Mm-hmm.
So my plan, which will, I won't mention it now. I obviously gave away it's for younger readers, but we'll talk about it next week because we did a full episode already. So
we did.
Hooray.
To be continued.
Thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. And help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.